Most people completely misunderstand the love of God and its relationship to our behavior, our obedience, and our sin, especially when it comes to that relationship as far as for followers of Jesus. John 15:9 and 10 may look one way at first reading, but I want to encourage you and challenge you to look at it differently than you might expect to. John 15:9 and 10 says, "As the Father has loved me, so I have loved you. Abide in my love. If you keep my commandments, you will abide in my love, just as I have kept my Father's commandments and abide in his love." A lot of times when we approach faith and religion, we're tempted to focus on the obedience part rather than the love part. But one of the things that I find interesting here is the directive that Jesus gives is abide in my love. He goes on to express that if you keep my commandments, you will abide in my love. But how does all that work together and play out? We abide in our love because we abide in the love of God, rather, because his love works in our lives and we're changed by his love for us. And so when we are in his love, he changes our desires regarding how we interact with others. He changes our desires in our desire to obey or not obey. But at the same time, one of the things that I find interesting about this is if we read, "If you keep my commandments and you will abide in my love," then one of the things that we might be tempted to think is if we don't keep his commandments, then he's throwing us out of his love. But instead, when we don't keep the commandments of God, when we disobey God, it's not that his love goes away. It's that we are trying to run from his love towards something else. And so we're not abiding in his love. We're not relishing the fact that he loves us. I'll give a more tangible example of this. If a husband and wife are married and they are deeply in love, and for the sake of this example, the husband decides he is going to run into he is going to pursue love with someone else. He's going to commit adultery. Then what happens isn't necessarily that the wife's love left him. It's that he ran away from the wife's love. And then that impacts their ability to be united and to be in a loving relationship. And so when we disobey God, when we run from him, when we try to find our satisfaction in something other than God, specifically disobedience towards God, then we have run from his love, and it impacts our ability to be in right relationship with God. So when instead of running towards sin, running towards the disobedience of God, instead what Jesus is calling us to do is to abide in his love. When we are confident in the love that God has for us, when we are satisfied with the love that God has for us, because we are in that type of deep relationship with him, then we're not going to be chasing after other things. We're not going to be chasing after disobedience. Instead, we're going to be wanting to walk step in step, just like a loving husband and wife will walk step in step as they go out and experience the world. And so our experience of the love of Jesus actually equips us and empowers us to not desire sin, to not desire disobedience to God. And so what we see in the relationship of God the Father and God the Son is that they are in such united relationship with each other. Their love is so strong that they choose not to do anything that Jesus chooses not to do anything against the will of God, against the will of God the Father. And so let's take note from that relationship and so fully run into the love of God that we lose our desire to be satisfied in anything else. And then when we go out into the world, we're going to be working with God, building his kingdom, rather than running and looking for satisfaction elsewhere. God bless.